time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. There. On today's coaching episode, a special episode where someone is willing to be real and vulnerable about where they're at in their business and ask for some support, I worked with Kim Groshek. And just to let you know, Kim Groshek helps visionary leaders turn complexity into clear, contained decisions so their work moves, their authority strengthens, and their business no longer depends on them carrying everything. So that's a little bit about Kim. She's a smart woman who's been at business a long time, has a great consulting practice and an interesting business model. So I really encourage you to listen to this episode for how she does what she does, as well as our conversation around how to monetize a podcast. But the thing that I'm most impressed with is immediately after the episode, I got an email from her with 7 action items, 7 things she took away from our conversation and was going to act on immediately to support making shifts in her podcast monetization and conversion. That's the kind of person I love working with, someone who's really action-oriented, who takes the value that they get and runs with it. So take a listen to this episode. If you've got a podcast, apply the lessons in that. If you don't, and you're thinking about it, build this in from the very beginning. But even if you don't plan to have a podcast, take a listen to this for how to repurpose some of your marketing content, how to think differently about your strategy, and how you're using it in terms of converting your marketing into actual clients, because we have a really interesting conversation about how these things tie together. I hope you find this beneficial. If you would like to be part of a coaching session, there's a link in the show notes for you to be able to sign up and be coached live on one of our sessions per month. Thanks very much, and I hope you enjoy this episode with Kim Groshek. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur Podcast. This is one of our special coaching episodes, and so thank you so much, Kim, for being here and for being willing to chat about something in your business that you'd like some support with. I really appreciate that. And the reason we do this, ladies and gentlemen, I do interviews most of the time, but really, a lot of times, entrepreneurs have challenges and we all share them. So we're going to be talking about something that I'm dealing with in my business right now as well. So I just figure it's a great way for you all to see that you're not alone in whatever you're dealing with and to get some practical next steps. Thank you for being here, Kim. So tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you do?
Well, thanks for having me. First of all, this has been an amazing journey and also meeting people, like-minded people like yourself. My name is Kim Groshek, and I have been in the industry for over 35 years. I have owned my own business and transitioned into entrepreneurship 3 years ago. Wow. And I actually created a podcast about 5 years ago. So I love that you have this coaching session to kind of help me fill some of the gaps. I live in the Midwest. I have a daughter who's very, very successful. She's over 37. She just turned 37. Wow. And I love stuff. We love going to the ballet together.
Ah, lovely. Okay. So tell me just a little bit about why you pivoted into your own business 3 years ago.
So I retired.
You were in corporate, right?
Yeah, so I was a corporate executive consultant where I'd go in and do transformation projects for Fortune 100 companies. So I worked at large companies that you probably have seen and heard of. I've been in almost all of them, a lot of education systems, a lot of government organizations. I would set up the governance, like the security governance, or I would set up the data governance, or I would actually, companies would blow up the whole half arm of the business, and I'd come in and realign everything and make sure that everything is functioning efficiently. And that's the person side as well as the system side. So I'd manage all those teams across the globe and get that in place.
Cool. Okay. And so what caused you to shift?
Yeah, so I basically retired. I really retired about 5 years ago, started teaching yoga for about 2 years, realized that was really my mindful practice and it turned into work again. So I decided then to just work with executives on my superpowers that they would hire me for so that they could actually build out their legacy long after they're gone and they can make money while they sleep so that I help them, connect them to partners who have the ecosystems already running,
Mm,
and they actually then can do what they love, make the
okay.
difference.
Well, there's two things in there that I want to touch on. One is I love your line about, I realized that it was my mindfulness practice, but it became work because when we follow our passion, it's not always the thing we should be doing for our business.
Mhm.
So that's a really great tip for people, because you don't want what's fun for you to be work, but you also don't want your work to be drudgery. And just explain a little bit more, and we'll get to your podcast in just a second, but we'll explain a little bit more about your business model because I love telling people on the show different models and different access points for how they can use their expertise, especially after they retire. So
Yes.
what do you really help them with, and how did you start to make that transition?
Yeah, so my business model itself, more of a functional design, is really where I actually help people, executives who are actually wanting to transition out and scale out their own business in a different way so that they actually are doing their passion project, right? And
Ah,
so help them build out their business and their nonprofit because they also, the money structures that come in and out and go out.
yep.
And then I also have the model that I use is I have the partnership model where it's plug and play. I will see their gaps, what they need. I will introduce them to the partner company or team, like someone like you as a partner,
Mhm.
where you know a lot about podcasting and they want to get a podcast set up or in streamlined, and I would introduce them to you, for example, and then I get a commission for doing that. So the model itself is helping others and everyone to succeed in many different ways, but the model is partnership, also coaching hand. Well, really, I'm more of an expert, a thought leader, advisor. I don't call myself a coach because
Mhm.
they don't need, a lot of my executives don't need to be coached.
Yeah.
They already know a lot. It's more advising them and keeping them accountable so that they can actually build their business fast.
That's awesome. And I'm assuming that you really leveraged your connections from your previous corporate work and all the executives that you worked with, because one of the big challenges for many people who start a business is where do I get clients? So that I'm assuming that's true. Is that the case? Is that where you find most of your clients is from your
So,
previous work?
good question. That is one of the avenues. The other avenue is I have an advisory team, the
Okay.
board of advisors. There, I always suggest that you actually have at least five different people with five different capabilities that support you along the way in building your business. My board of advisors right now, I have two of them. We're building five because it's only short time and
Hmm.
it's taken a bit for me to select the right ones.
Hmm.
But they actually connect me to high profile leaders
Hmm.
that are the right fit right away, so I don't have to do a lot of the work. And then
Wow.
I speak on stages too.
Very, very, very smart. Okay. So let's talk about your profile building. So you mentioned speaking and you have your podcast, but you started your podcast before you started your business. So
Yes.
tell me about that. Why did you do that?
Well, my good friend Seth Godin invited me to into one of his 6 week cohorts. He just complimentary because we were friends, and it was to build a podcast. And at the time, again, I was pre-retired, around retirement. I said, okay, this would be kind of fun to try. And as I learned how to get it set up, I said, okay, I'm going to do these little segments that were only 8 minutes long called sound bits. And so I called it sound bits. I was taught to do the whole branding around it. And then it is a conversation similar to what you and I are doing, where we get to know each other, we find a connection, and it is a conversation more than it is anything else. There's no selling in it. And it's been very successful. I do it it's consistently published every Thursday at noon Central Time. And it's on 15 platforms.
And it's still the 8 minute format?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. And what's it called?
Sound Bits Podcast.
Okay. Sound Bits Podcast. Is there a subtitle?
It used to be little bits of information, but I just changed it to decision making because that's actually what I actually do in companies now.
Right. Okay. So decision making is the subtitle or decision making?
I can't even remember because I just changed it about a week ago, but it's
Okay,
related
no
to,
problem.
yeah, it's what decisions you need to make, something like that. But
So
you can look it up, sound bits. Yeah.
sound bites. And so tell me what you want to do with the podcast. What's your strategy behind the speaking in the podcast?
Yeah. So what sound bits, it's bits, not bites.
Thank you.
Sound bits has turned into is it's actually a way for people to meet me and I meet them. And I brought in a lot of people for building relationships, building partnerships, bringing people on my stages because I actually host panels and summits and all kinds of things. So it's become my avenue of connection.
Okay.
So what I want, is that what you asked me to say?
Well, what's the strategy behind the speaking and the podcast? What do you want to how do you see it supporting your business?
Well, I'd like to monetize it. I know what I want to do.
Hmm.
How I see it right now is it's a front end funnel, if you want to call it that, right? I didn't realize it was at the time, but it has become that. It's building relationships. That's what I do. That's my superpower. I'm a connector. I'm a relationship builder. I want to see everyone win, right? So that's one of my superpowers, and it works really well.
Awesome. Okay. And so when you speak, what do you mostly speak on? Just because the two kind of relate and go together.
Yep. So my model undecision framework is coming out. My book on the brand, my big idea is on June 18th. I have a lot of books out there. It took me over 55 books since 2007 to publish before I figured out what my signature talk is. It is about decision making.
Wait, did you just say you wrote 55 books?
Yes. Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
How did you write 55 books?
Yeah. So it's a process. In 2007, I always wanted to write a kid's book
Yeah.
when I was a little girl. And so in 2007, I said, I'm doing it. So I figured it out. I actually published a book, self-published, and ordered the books through China, a printer. I mean, I did the whole traditional model, except I wasn't the traditional publisher. I created a publishing house called Creatively Canny. Out of that, I had 5 kids' books, and then I moved into the higher age group, which was the 13-year-old. Then I have a young adult novel, which is the big one, like a thick young adult, 16 and plus, called Shards of the Past. But I have a lot of nonfiction books that are teaching tools.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of tiny books, to help people get a concept out. It's only 20 pages. I actually am the impetus behind a tiny book. I have how to write a tiny book in there, but everything is, it's a lot of the modalities. So it's like Kim's brains out in these books. Feel free to leverage them. I have some on-demand training in the Thread Media's community. So it's all aligned really well.
All right.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that you just realized that your primary problem that you want to solve in the world is decision making,
Yep.
and specifically what within that, because this relates to the monetization as well. So what's the problem you want to solve in the world?
So the problem I want to solve in the world is that I believe that our technology and our always on, we're always looping, and we're starting to become mute in our brain. That decision-making part of our brain, there's actually big research on this, that actually we are losing that capability because we're letting others or other things, AI, whatever, make decisions for us. And I'm all about keeping our human aspect into the process. Decision making is the first start of that. Yes, AI can do the decision making, but you actually are the ultimate decider.
Okay. And so we're losing our ability to make good decisions. So your solution is how to make good decisions.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So there's a few things to kind of loop this back. One is, as you've very smartly done, create a platform where you can be seen and heard, and that's your speaking and your podcast. But like many people, I'm from what we talked about before briefly, the podcast isn't doing a whole lot for you right now, right?
It is from there's 7 pillars of wealth. But it isn't giving me monetization, which is what I want to focus on, right? It is giving me the connections, which is a big piece of wealth, right? But it is sucking time for me because I'm not getting monetized for it, right? Because I don't have a team. I have tried a team, but it costs money, right? Because I'm not getting monetized, so I don't want to pay out. So
Mhm.
that whole circle around monetization is the focus. It is giving me a lot of other things from the wealth department.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, and that's one of the things that I was going to mention and bring back is one of the first things so strategically, it's a platform to be seen and heard. But yes, it does take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort to find the guests, to screen the guests, to do these episodes, to potentially edit the video, to post it out on, all the various platforms, etc. And it does help to have a team, but yes, it can be expensive. Although I have a VA who's $7 an hour, and she does all my podcast posting. So each
Right.
episode maybe cost me maybe $21, probably
Right.
close to 14.
But still so I paid a team who would splice at least I think 30 of my podcasts for $200 a month. So yes, I know that's cheap.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is that that's $200.
yeah,
I want to
exactly.
pull that out or a return on investment, right? That because I as if you run a business and don't make money,
Yeah.
you don't have a business, right? And so this is a business, and the podcast piece I want to slot into the business now. Didn't before. Before it was just let's do this as a project. It was a value add. Let's make a difference in the world. That's more nonprofit, but this is actually the business now. I want to snap it into the business. That's the difference.
Okay. Well, and so there's two things that I think a lot of people underestimate, and you've been in business a long time, and so you're obviously seeing this, but one is the connections, and two is the marketing value of it. So this is an investment in marketing more than it is an investment in something that's likely to return tremendous amounts of money. Literally, the ones who are in the 1% range, they might make some good money, quite honestly, but the vast majority of podcasts don't make money, not significant money. They might make enough to carry themselves, perhaps a little bit more, but really the reality is most people don't make money from podcasts. So, number one, it's an investment in your marketing, but it has to be used very strategically. It has to actually, A, be seen, B, create credibility, and C, add value to your marketing. In other words, to convert. And that's where most podcasts fall down. They don't have a conversion strategy for the podcast. Now, you mentioned connections, and obviously in your business, that's very important. So, strategically, I'm assuming most of the guests that you're talking to and the sound bits that you're doing are with potential clients, or are they with someone else? Who are the
I
guests?
love that you just said that. Yeah, so I wanted to just say what you said and validate that what you said because it's true.
Yeah.
So I love that you said that the podcast really is a marketing investment because the way I've been looking at it is not the way that you just said it, which I need to relook at this because it is more of a downstream return on investment that I need to see the monetization and I
Mhm.
need to look at that strategy. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Number two, you had said conversion. I do not have a conversion funnel strategy, which is another part which I need to look at. And I'll answer your question now so you can help me with that. So the other thing is I bring people in because, as you know, my business model is unique.
Mhm.
People don't always do this model because it is more complicated, but you have to have structures around it. The partnership model, which, and then the giving back model, which is giving people a stage for visibility, similar to what you're doing for me. And the third thing is clients, but typically they don't come in as clients. It ends up being more partnership, just seeing all the people I've interviewed, right? It's always turned out to be the two that I just shared. The client is a different channel, so I wouldn't want to talk about that because you and I talked about the speaking channels where I get those, and then I also get it through advisory roles where my partners, that's even farther down the road, my
Mhm.
partners connect me to their high profile partners who then trust them and then they trust me.
Right.
Make
Okay.
sense?
So, in terms of the ways that a lot of people don't monetize their Because we often think of monetization as I get paid. I get paid a sponsorship fee or an advertising fee. And those are two of the most common ways that people make money is they have a sponsor that they promote on the podcast. And part of why I was asking who you serve and how you serve them is, of course, when you get sponsors or advertisers, you want people that align with or companies that align with how you serve who you serve. Um, so that it doesn't feel disparate. It feels like it's in alignment with the problem you solve. So you want advertisers or sponsors, slightly different, who want to be in front of your audience, but who actually serve your audience in a way that you endorse and support. Because you want it to be in integrity and in alignment. It's not just whoever pays you, it's whoever pays you that is a good fit for you, for your brand, for your audience, and for your strategy. And so you can get advertisers and sponsors. With your format, though, it doesn't lend itself as well to that because you want a really good proportion of value to promotion. And where your conversion is more likely going to be valuable is less promoting other people and more promoting yourself. And so one of the things that I would highly recommend is that you do start thinking of conversion. And there's a couple of different ways. One, because you don't necessarily want to pitch yourself on every single episode. Some people do. Some people just have a commercial for every episode, and some people promote one thing. Some people promote what is ever going on. Like I promote my workshop when I've got a workshop coming up, or I promote my launch of my bigger program if I'm doing that, etc. But you can also bring them into your world by promoting your newsletter on LinkedIn or promoting your, free event.
Threads Media community, which is a private community. Not everyone gets to be access to it, but they get some really valuable information in it. But there's also some paid modules in it, but they get access to the main module, which is the value add. So I think that would align with my whole framework or funnel, right?
Yeah. So I think that's important to think about. How do you add value? How do you promote yourself? And really what you want to do is get them in your world. You don't want to sell them something. You want to get them in your world so that you can have further ongoing conversations. People try and sell prematurely. I liken it to going on a date. You don't want to stick your tongue down their throat before you've even said hello. And so, you want to go on a date, get to know them, then maybe you have a kiss, and you don't ask them to marry you on the first date. So, I have a conversion strategy, and what do you want to convert them into? What's your door into your house, right? So for me, it's often the newsletter or the reinvention roundtables, which are free, things that add value, but don't don't know where that came from, but anyways, okay, I guess.
Yes. So let's talk about the conversion so that you hear my world, how it looks, and see if it matches and where the gaps are. Because I have an executive roundtable every 2 weeks that I invite at least I invite a few more, but it's usually 7 people show up. And then from that, because they participate, they get a CEO brief every month, like it saying what problems they're dealing, what decisions are they making, and how they can solve it. And then I invite those people that come into my roundtable into Thread Media. I also invite people that participate in my podcast into Thread Media because if they fit, like I will ferret them out. Usually they do because people come to me because there's a connection already. And then in the Thread Media, I have a rabbit hole series, or it's actually an Alice in Wonderland series that they're tiny books. There's 6 of them that actually go through different concepts around decision making to help them practice. It gives them frameworks in the modules in the Thread Media, and each one is $47 each. You see where I'm going there? It's starting to add now. Then it moves them into, I have a monthly cohort that they actually get premium access to all of the stuff, right? For $500 a month, or, then they get 2 months free if they pay for the full year. And then there is the jump, which is my one-on-one. I only choose 9 clients, if you want to call them clients, right? They're people I work with to help them build this whole amazing ecosystem within a year to make a difference.
Okay.
But I also, outside of that, I actually go into companies and teach decision making, which is not part of that funnel, which I probably need to plug in somewhere, where they buy 100 or 500 or 1,000 of my books into the large companies. And then I have a training for 2 days. And then they get to have the 6-week cohort with me involved as a Q&A so that they can actually build on and apply what I teach them for 6 weeks.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a brilliant funnel. And I really want to highlight the last thing you said, because that's something that a lot of people miss is they'll go in and they'll do trainings for organizations or the public or whatever, but they don't do implementation support. So the organization doesn't get as much ROI because drop and go training doesn't get applied. It's more information. All it actually does is widen the gap between what people know and what they're doing. And so it actually does a disservice to organizations. But when you give them that implementation support, not only do you charge more, but you also get results and ROI and testimonials and so forth. So super smart that you're doing that. And that you're bundling the books with it is really, really smart as well, because then you get mass sales, which most authors never figure out, never get. So those are both really smart. And I love your progression in terms of the model. So you are monetizing your podcast. You just haven't been thinking of it as monetizing it because
Yes.
you wouldn't be getting those conversions into it if you didn't have that invitation path into
Okay.
the executive roundtables. Now, are the executive roundtables by invitation and are they paid or free?
Yeah, so they are free right now. Hopefully, our internet is not disconnecting. But they're free right now because it is a way to give them value and get to know me, because many of them don't know me yet.
Yeah.
These are cold leads, if you want to call it that. People just don't
Yeah.
know me yet. So
Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of rattle off a few suggestions here. Some will fit, some won't. And you're doing a lot of things really, really well. I think some of it is just tightening up A, how you're looking at it, and B, the path being more intentional. So
okay.
could you get sponsors and advertisers? Yes, but with your model, I wouldn't advocate it actually, because of how short your podcast is. You're giving away airtime that's very precious because you don't have a lot of it. But you could get sponsors that sponsor your speaking and that you reference in your speaking and your presentations, or that sponsor an executive roundtable and they get a seat and they get to do a 2-minute presentation, something like that. That then get perhaps a little bit of profile in something related to your podcast that I'm going to suggest right now. One of the big things that people miss on podcasts is building their list, because a lot of times when we bring someone in, it depends on the format of your podcast, and you may or may not do this, but the people we bring in have lead magnets or they have something of value that they're going to give. That's very beneficial. Now, if you're bringing in executives, they probably don't have that, but if you do have guests that bring in lead magnets, create something. I call mine the vault, because I was building everyone else's list by offering their lead magnet, and people would opt into their lead magnet and get on their list. But I wasn't building my list for my podcast. And it's one of the biggest assets we have is our list. And so by creating the vault, people now opt into the vault. I have all of my lead magnets listed there. So my speakers get seen again and again. People will go through there. It kind of becomes a 365-day giveaway. People can go in and get the various different gifts and they'll go, oh, that sounds like an interesting topic. I'll go listen to that. Because often on podcasts, you get exposure for that week, then it drops down, or that day or whatever it is, drops down, and people don't see your episode very often. This way, you stay visible all year round, but more importantly, when they opt into the vault, they get on my list. Then they can go opt into all of the other things they want to, and they get on those people's lists as well. So it's a win-win-win.
Yep.
People get more gifts, my listeners,
Yep.
my guests get more views, and I build my list. So if you have anything like that, I recommend that you figure out a way to build
I
your
don't.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
if you're listening,
I don't, oh, wait, but I don't, but what I'm gonna do is take that and creatively look at what you just shared to do it in a way that because my executives don't do this whole list thing and then what you're talking about, because they're still working in corporate and then they're transitioning out and then working with me. So they're getting to know me before usually, or they're out and they're going, I don't know anything about lists.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they're not really thinking that way right then. So in the executive roundtable, it's that person that isn't thinking that way yet. And so I want to do something creatively though, because I think you have what you're sharing is something that keeps falling in my space. Other people have mentioned this vault, and I've used it in summits, right? Where I have my summits where I host, and that's a different thing. But this is something I think I can do this creatively, right? Or maybe you and I can talk offline and figure out ways that are they sign in, right? There's something else that signs in and gets some value, and maybe it's some episodes that I've curated from the 300, right? That really relate. I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah.
but I totally get it. I hear you. You know,
That occurs to me that you could do, and especially because you're a publisher and an author, is you could, for example, when you talk to your people about the podcast, you could say, okay, we're going to do something before we record the sound bit. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and that will be put into the vault for additional content that people can go and get. So we're going to do your sound bit. But then we're going to say, and if you want to hear more from, Seth Godin, go to the vault and he answers these key questions. So you've got additional content that they're going to get, because if they like that piece, then they're going to want more. You also now have curated pieces that could be easily become a chapter in a compilation book, could easily be turned into, an article or a white paper or something that you could expand on for them, with them, or put together a bunch of them of leadership wisdom from sound bits to strategy insights or something like that. You know what I mean?
thank
So
you.
you're already talking
That's
to them, just expand it a little, repurpose it, and
yeah.
you can use that. So that's one thing. Second thing is, in terms of conversions, have a call to action. What is the call to action that you can invite people to? Probably the roundtables, keep it exclusive like you're doing. But I would also say strategically really curate who you're bringing on, because and make them either potential clients or potential referral partners. You're probably already doing that, but the more that you up level that and make it intentional, and the more that you then
Okay.
have that intentional conversation with them after the podcast interview, then the more likely you're going to convert them as well. So
Okay.
intentionality around the conversion of the guests, intentionality around building the list. Have a commercial break for you. You're doing all this time and money and investment, so sell something. And it doesn't have to be big or pitchy. It could be your lead magnet. It could be your summits coming up. It could be, a roundtable. It could be whatever it is. But it does need to be where people can really take a next step with you. Because if they're
Okay.
listening to you and they want you, then make it easy for them. Okay. And then
Okay.
the
Thank
next
you.
thing that I would suggest is, and Thread Media is probably a good access point. So client connections, make sure that it's clients and referral partners that you're having on. Make it a part of your pre or post conversation with them to make sure you let them know what those next steps are. You probably do that already, but often we sometimes miss that. We're trying to provide value and give people a platform, and we forget to enroll them in next steps. So that's, to say, who else do you know? This may or may not be a fit for you, but who else can you suggest? The pillars for your speaking, or sorry, your sponsors for your speaking. If you find one and give them exposure, and it could be that do you post your videos on YouTube or just sound platforms? Your podcast.
So their audios, yeah.
Just
So this is an old-fashioned approach, because it's a reason, because I do pocket coaching audios. Everything is audio with me, because I believe that it's much easier to sit on a train and listen to an 8-minute audio than sit there trying to watch it. So that there's actually a reason. I do have two YouTube channels. One is for my CEO briefs, where I interview CEOs that are high profile, that give us, then they're longer interviews, right? And and they get the stage, and then I have fireside chats, which is usually panels or an author coming in that would like to chat about their book. So there's two different channels there. Those are different things than what I'm doing, but this Sound Bits is the one we're talking about today.
Okay, well, and sound bits, I would actually encourage you because it's marketing as well to repurpose
Mhm.
it and turn those into shorts and leave them as 8 minutes and put them
Okay.
on a YouTube channel within
All
one
right.
of your platforms on YouTube because you already have it. You're recording it. I'm assuming you're recording the audio on Zoom. Is that or
Yep.
Riverside?
Yeah, there is a video to it. I just there's an intention to it, but yeah, I can go back and actually create a channel called Sound Bits on YouTube if you think that that's
Absolutely. Because then it gives
suggested.
people the option. Those who want to consume visually
Mhm.
can. You still have all the audio available for everyone who just wants the audio. And I agree with you. Most people will consume it audio, right? But I would have the video.
Yeah,
And the reason for the video, as much as it may be for people to consume, is more for SEO and more people finding your channel. It drives more traffic to your channels when you have shorts and when you have stuff and when you really optimize it for SEO. So make sure that your titles have keywords, make sure that they have SEO in the description because then the algorithms will shift and you'll get found more on YouTube as well. So this
love
podcast
it.
is part of your marketing. And so how do you use the podcast to drive traffic to other places where you can engage people? Okay, so strategically
Mhm.
using it more for marketing, up the conversion, get a sponsor where they can have a little bit of platform. So for instance, if you had the vault, they could have a top listing in the document where they stay permanently. They could be on a
Yep.
banner or a slide in your presentations in corporate, things like that. You can put together a package that they pay for to have the presence. They could, have a little mention at an executive roundtable, that kind of thing. But really, truly,
Mhm.
where you're going to get the most lift is from capitalizing on the guests and on driving traffic from the podcast to the things that do monetize. Okay. That's where
Okay,
you're going to get the
great.
most lift. Now, the other thing that you could do for each one is, and building your list, is do an offer of a tiny book each time or every once a month or something where people can go and get it for free. They get on your list, they find out all your other books. You have a book of the month, club where people who are
Love
in
it.
exchange for subscribing, because then it also drives subscribers. When they show you that they've
Mhm.
subscribed, they get a free book. So it drives subscribers, they get into your world around your books, and it creates a little bit more buzz around you and what you're doing. The other thing is take a look at
Love
how
it.
do you repurpose the 8 minutes? Can you expand it? Can you repurpose it in terms of where it's going on your social media, etc.? Because it would be super easy to turn those into shorts of 1 minute, use them as reels to promote the podcast, but
Mhm.
also gives you more profile and you've already got the content. So repurposing it is actually fairly easy. Using something like
Love it.
Descript or Opus Clips makes it, or even Riverside, if you're doing that for your podcast, makes it really easy to get those shorts. So, has this been helpful?
Oh, big time. I've got a lot of things in my head here that I'm going to start pulling together and getting focused and intentions on. So thank you for filling the gaps for me.
Sure. One other piece of advice that I would give you that I learned the hard way. I used to have a podcast called The Bodacity Show. And, it got some interest and so forth. And then someone said, you really should name your podcast what it is and who it's for. And so I changed it to the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood. And I got a lot more listeners and a lot more response. And it grew quickly because people knew who it was for and what it was about. They knew that it was about
Mhm.
purpose, so the inner game and profit, so business and sisterhood for women. So, because your podcast doesn't have a name that's clear exactly what it's about, you need a stronger subtitle. You need something that really clarifies who it is. So, decision-making wisdom for leaders, or something that really ties in with your brand and lets people know immediately what is this podcast about, so that when they're searching for podcasts, those keywords come up and they find sound bits because no one's looking for sound bits. They're looking for solutions to what they
Right.
want to listen for. So you got to have that in your description,
Okay.
show description, and in your subtitle. So make yourself
Awesome.
more findable by shifting that. Okay?
Yeah. Easy enough to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So let people know where they can find your podcast. So Sound Bits, and on their
Yes.
favorite platform, they just search on Sound Bits.
Yep.
The Decision That Closes, that's a good one too. Although that may not be clear unless they are sales oriented.
Right.
So you want to run
Yeah.
it by some of your people that are your ideal clients. Would they go and listen to this
Mhm.
based on that description? And see which ones they sit up for and go, oh, yeah, that gets my attention. Thank you for being here and for being open and honest about your business model. I appreciate that. I think it's a fascinating way to capitalize on your expertise. So many of what you've been doing, Kim, is brilliant, and how you've been doing it. So I really, I've learned a lot from you on this conversation myself. So I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, go and find her. Kim, what's your website? Where can they find you?
Kim Groshek. Yep. So it's kimgroshek.com, KIMGROS as in Sam, HEK.com.
Okay, awesome. So if you're one of those leaders who are looking to make a transition, looking to perhaps have some support with that journey, by all means, go and talk to Kim. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for some coaching and support, and you're willing to be brave and bold and be seen publicly with whatever we're working on, please do sign up at the link in the show notes here for your own episode. And yeah, probably below. I would love to support you in your growth and your journey. Thank you, Kim, for being here. And everybody remember, if not now, when? Because only you can be the difference that you can be in the world. So we need you. Pitter patter, let's get at her. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.